Hi, I'm Joshua Alexander, mental health freedom fighter, and I want to talk about what science knows about mental illness. And basically, what that is nothing. They don't really know anything about mental illness. They just have names for symptoms. That's it. And if we're being intellectually honest, that's all they know. They have names for symptoms and they have a bunch of theories. There's no hard evidence. There's no definitive studies. They can't actually see what's happening inside the body. So they have a theory, for example, that there's chemical imbalances in the brain. There's no science to show this. They can't actually see the chemical imbalances. They're just theorizing. When in reality, there's nothing natural in the body that can create these symptoms. There can be chemical toxins from outside the body and toxic heavy metals from outside the body that get into our body and create the symptoms, but nothing naturally occurring in the body can create mental illness symptoms. So they have a theory that it's genetic. They see people in ancestors having symptoms, and then children have symptoms, so they say, oh, it must be genetic, just made up theory. There's no, they can't see the gene in the lab that is causing these symptoms. It's just completely made up. And that's all they know. So it's important to just be honest. I mean, science is supposed to be a neutral study, right? And unbiased, right? So we need to be honest that they don't know anything about mental illness or chronic illness in general. Literally nothing. Science has some technology in medicine for pacemakers and prostheses and things that use math and engineering and weights and measures and that kind of stuff. But in chronic illness, there's nothing like that. It's just people saying, "Oh, this must be it. There must be some genes involved. There must be some chemicals involved." That's it. So, one of my grandmothers had schizophrenia. The other grandmother had manic depression. So back in the 60s, they used to call bipolar manic depression, right? Manic depression, mania, depression. Those are the two symptoms that the person experiences. And then at some point, they changed the name to bipolar. You're up, you're down. And did they know anything more about the illness at that point? No. They just changed the name to kind of give the appearance that they're making progress in medicine when they're not. They do the same thing with chronic fatigue. Originally, it was called crazy women syndrome in the 50s. Then they finally recognized it as chronic fatigue syndrome. Then they changed the name to MECFS or systemic intolerance disorder or whatever, any number of names. Do they know anything more about it? No. Nothing. Literally nothing. So it's really all we have in chronic illness is names for symptoms and a bunch of drugs that basically just suppress us, right? With mental illness symptoms, it basically just numbs you down emotionally, mentally, just dulls you down and just suppresses things, right? Or, it has some caffeine in the medications to give you some energy or whatever. But that's the state of medicine today. And till this day, there's no information about chronic illness or mental illness in conventional or alternative medicine other than medical medium information. It's the only answers available that aren't just theory for chronic illness and mental illness. Medical medium published first in 2015 that Epstein-Barr virus causes MS, multiple sclerosis. 8 years later, Harvard Medical took that information with no studies to show Epstein-Barr causing MS. No, they couldn't see the neurotoxin landing on a nerve in a lab. They just took the information from medical medium, didn't cite it. Same thing with thyroid. Medical medium said Epstein-Barr causes thyroid problems, and they said, oh, well, it's linked. Epstein-Barr is linked to thyroid. But they don't actually give you the tools to heal. So they'll kind of pick pieces of that medical medium information to make it seem like they're in the game and they're on top of things, but then they don't actually cite it back, so you can't find your way to actually heal. So, and this happens in alternative medicine as well. The podcast doctors, the YouTube doctors, they're talking about the liver now. No one talked about the liver in alternative medicine before the Liver Rescue book came out. Now they're talking about the liver. No one talked about the vagus nerve until medical medium said that the vagus nerve causes anxiety and different symptoms. Now they're talking about the vagus nerve. I saw some YouTube doctor the other day posting about like a bunch of beverages or something, and he had lemon water on there. No one was talking about fresh squeezed lemon and water before medical medium information. That's original medical medium information. So he had like lemon water, but then he had like apple cider vinegar shots and like matcha tea or coffee or something. So it's like they're just mixing, they're taking bits and pieces of medical medium information, not citing it, and then mixing it with a bunch of the trendy misinformation. And that's what's happening with mental illness as well. You know, alternative medicine would say, oh, it's your gut microbiome. That's why you're having mental illness symptoms. So they could sell their gut powders and probiotics and all that junk that never healed people. Now there's this new trend going around with the high fat is an old trend, but they're now applying it to mental illness, and they're trying to say metabolism is involved in mental illness. It's metabolism, and you need to eat all this high protein, high fat to fix your metabolism, which is nonsense. Metabolism basically was a discovery hundreds of years ago that we're alive, and that's it. There's no such thing as a high metabolism or a low metabolism. It just means we're alive. And what creates the symptom is a toxic, sluggish liver, right? So we have toxins and viruses, and we get a fatty liver, and the liver becomes problematic. It has over 2,000 chemical functions, and when it's not doing, it's burdened down, it can't produce the bile to break down all the fat. The liver's struggling, and that's what causes these symptoms, not a slow metabolism or a fast metabolism, right? But they're trying to say now, metabolism is why people have mental illness symptoms, or you could fix mental illness by fixing metabolism. And it's like, that's just fabricated. It's meaningless. There's nothing proven to show that. They're just making it up, and they're experimenting on people with mental illness symptoms, and they're bombarding them with high fat, high protein, so that they're basically running on adrenaline. The high fat causes your body to excrete adrenaline. So people are getting some improvements because the adrenaline helps bypass the toxic heavy metals in the brain, right? So people with mental illness symptoms like psychosis, there's toxic heavy metals in the brain, okay, that disrupt nerve signals. Adrenaline helps the nerve signals bypass those metals deposits, right? So these people are running on adrenaline all day, and they're basically putting their body into a crisis state. So like a fight or flight state. What they're calling ketosis is like the body going into a crisis state, basically being made sick. So the body is like on high alert, right? It's got the adrenaline flowing, they're in crisis, it's sick, and then like the mental illness symptoms aren't at the forefront because their body is like fighting for survival. But what's going to happen is eventually they're going to burn out. The adrenaline is, their adrenals are going to burn out, and they're not going to be able to run on adrenaline forever. They're going to hit a wall, and they're going to be in a much worse state because their body's going to be so acidic and toxic from the high fat. They're not going to be able to get toxins out of the body, and they're going to end up really sick. And this is medicine today. This is what science knows. A bunch of made-up theories and experiments on people, just, without really knowing why anyone's sick. And it's terrifying. Thank God we have the medical medium information so we can actually know why we're sick, and we could take steps to actually heal the root cause of what's creating the symptoms. It's not our body, it's not our genes, it's not some mythical fantasy metabolism gone awry. There's actually real viruses in our bodies. There's toxic heavy metals in our brains. There's toxins in our liver. Our liver becomes fatty and sluggish. And when you know the real cause, you can actually heal it. So the moral of the story is we have to be honest if we want to heal, and we have to base our understanding on how the body actually works. And the medical community information is the only source that actually tells us how the body works in regards to chronic illness and symptoms, what causes the symptoms and how to heal. So that's the only source that I trust. That's the source that I've used to heal for years. And it's a wonderful thing. So, doctors that are in it to heal their patients, when they hear about medical medium, they're open to it because they actually care and they actually want to heal their patients. And they read the books and they're impressed and they see their patients improving and they use the information. So there's tens of thousands of doctors using the information. Doctors that are actually working on patients and actually trying to, care, not podcast doctors or YouTube doctors trying to make a name for themselves or get rich or who knows what. But so yeah, I mean, it's so important to know the difference between real information and stuff that is just theory that has been circling around for decades. The same stuff for decades. The high fat protein has been going on for decades. The gut microbiome crap has been going on for decades. They just keep changing the name. First it was candida, then it's leaky gut, then it's microbiome. That they just keep changing the names for each new generation. That just gets suckered into these same trends. But when you've been in the trenches for a long time, you start to see it, and you can be free from it. So. Anyway, I love science. I love that medical medium information is only ever proven right and never proven wrong. And I want science to get it right. I really do. But I also care about all the people that are suffering and that are being harmed by all these trends, these negligent trends that made up by people who don't know why they're sick. And it's reckless. It really is. I'm concerned about people's health, especially on these really new high-fat, high-protein diets that are being targeted towards mental illness patients, people with mental illness symptoms. I'm concerned for down the road when their body eventually can't sustain that type of acidic environment and the burden that the fats and the proteins put on the body and the organs. So anyway, I wish you well. Go to the pure source of information, medical medium information. The links are in the descriptions, and you can heal. God bless you.